it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I want to talk about trading and do a little bit of like a 101 basics, just kind of a instructional guide, tips, tricks, whatever you want to call it, on trading in lane. Trading is one of the concepts that you will run into when you start to kind of get, you know, in like bronze or low silver. Like, this concept of trading really is not important. It's not something that you really need to, I mean, for the most part, I would say, like, just to set yourself like head and shoulders above your peers in bronze, like just like last hitting really well will be enough to give you a massive lane advantage. But in higher, you know, once you get up into gold, especially, I've noticed is that trading in lane becomes very important, and that is what really can set people apart, is their ability to trade effectively in lane. And there are two types of trades that I want to talk about. Specifically, there are a lot of different ways to trade. I mean, League of Legends is an extremely complex game. There are a lot of variables to take in mind at all times, especially when you're in a solo lane and it's kind of a 1v1 situation. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. It's kind of like a little bit of a chess match about, you know, what do they have? What do I have? What are we capable of? Where's the jungler going to be? There's all these variables running around that need to be taken into account. And so, yeah, let's talk about a couple of different types of trades. I've been kind of trading back and forth with this Rengar, and I'm probably going to do a little rewinding and kind of display some of the things I've been talking about as we go through this. So the first type of trading I want to talk about is a CS trade. This is a pretty straightforward one, but the basic idea is that when your opponent goes to last hit, then you go ahead and whack him in the face. And this is really, really something to know, especially if you play AD carry or top lane, is probably the best time to take advantage of these types of trades. And I'll kind of display this in a second. But then the other kind of trade I want to highlight is called I like to call it a cooldown trade. But so the basic idea here is that you need to keep track or have some awareness of your cooldowns as well as your opponent's cooldowns. And so, because that will influence what types of abilities you have available to you and what types of abilities they have available to you as well. So, for example, in this matchup as Jax, anytime my Counter-Strike is up, I'm strong. But anytime my Counter-Strike is down, I'm weak. You know, so much of my power is put into my Counter-Strike. On the flip side, if we look at Rengar, you know, he's maxing his Bola and he's got his Q. You know, those are kind of his main damaging abilities. You know, when he uses either one of those, he becomes a lot weaker. So the idea is that you want to try and capitalize on someone. Like, let's say, as Jax, like, let's say I use my E and I kind of mess up and I don't actually get the stun. That's a really important time for Rengar to punish me. And vice versa. If Rengar uses his Q on a minion wave, you know, that's 5 or 6 seconds that I don't have to worry about that. So that's time where you have a little bit of a window to really take advantage of that and try and punish him for using that cooldown. So let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to back this up a little bit, and we'll try and take a look at some examples. Okay, so this first example is going to be a CS trade. Now, in this clip, the biggest things to watch out for is that, you know, I would say that the skill to gain in this is that not only do you want to be watching the creeps, you know, like these purple creeps over here that are going to be dying so that I can last hit them, but you also want to keeping some awareness of your own creeps so that when they get low, you know that Rengar is going to want to try to last hit them as well. So when he chooses to do that and go in and last hit, that's when you want to take advantage of him. So this is really simple. This creep's getting low. He's going to run in, last hit it. I'm going to auto-attack him. Very simple, very straightforward, but it was a small little thing that gave me a very slight damage advantage. You can see I just have a little bit. I mean, it's minor. I don't have any sort of like lane dominance just because of that one little trade. But you know, the idea is that when he went up to auto-attack that creep, he's obviously not going to auto-attack me. You know, you can't do two things at once. So when he does that, that's a really good time to go in. Now I believe I have an example of so right there, I actually saw it, was waiting for him to use his Q, and so I jumped him on him with my W and my Q. That was a really good little trade for me right there. Let's watch this one more time. So this was an example of a cooldown trade. You can see him coming in. I can see him going for this creep. Right there, I see him auto-attacking that creep, and I kind of anticipated that he was going to use his Q. Just because from playing Rengar, like an auto Q is like a way to clear a creep on moderate health. So let's watch this one more time. So he uses his cooldown. Let's do it from his perspective. He uses his Q right there. So that's when I jump on him. And that's, yeah, I used my WQ and I come out ahead because I use the cooldowns to my advantage. And so those were kind of two quick little examples about, you know, when and where to use these trades. And so these are always something you want to keep in mind. And so in order to do this, like I said, the first thing is you really want to try and keep in mind your creeps and their creeps. That's kind of the first step. And the more that you can kind of get a hang on this and kind of get a feel for this, the better. And so yeah, and then the second thing is you have to know champions. In order to know cooldowns, you have to know champions. And a lot of this comes from playing champions. If you've ever played Jax, you'll know, well, his Counter-Strike is on kind of a long cooldown. So whenever Jax uses it, that's a really good time to go ham on him. And a lot of this just comes from experience. And there's no like shortcut or quick way to get this kind of information or knowledge. A lot of it just comes from playing the game a lot. And so let's go ahead and fast forward. Okay, so in this next clip, I want to highlight more of a longer extended trade, something that kind of occurs over the course of about 10 to 15 seconds. So I have this little tussle with Rengar. We're just going to watch it a little bit, and I want to kind of try and highlight some of the things that I do well and some of the things that I do wrong. So obviously right there, I go in for kind of the killing blow and get that last auto attack off to clean him up. But let's watch this one more time and kind of try and get a feel for exactly what all happens throughout this entire trade. So a couple of things here. First of all, is I use my W, but then I Q on top of him. That probably wasn't the best choice, and then I actually wasted my E right there. So actually a bit of a misplay right there. What I should have done is kept the last hit for my auto attack, and then used my W-empowered Q to get that initial burst of damage. And then if I'm going to use my Counter-Strike, I need to commit to it. I need to get the stun. There's no reason to use the Counter-Strike unless you're actually going to battle with him. So right there, so when I let it kind of go, that was a mistake. And now I'm just waiting for cooldowns. He's used all of his abilities, and I was waiting for my Q and my W to come back up, and I've got my Ignite up. And I'm going to go ham. So let's again watch this one more time from the beginning. You can see there were things that I did well and things I did wrong. Okay, so there's the W. The W actually went off on the creep. There I decided to jump in on him. Getting an auto, going to use my Counter-Strike, but then instead of committing, I let him kind of back away, and I actually used my Counter-Strike incorrectly. So it was probably correct for him to go in on this. But there I get a nice empowered W off on him. Now I'm trying to kite him back as I wait for cooldowns. Gonna pop my ultimate right there. Gonna use my Q. Gonna use my W and my Ignite. And gonna go ahead and win that trade. And a lot of that's going in with this is a lot of it is knowing your champion and knowing what you can and cannot do. And I think the biggest thing that occurred in this situation is just that Jax is so much better in long, drawn-out trades, while Rengar is much, much better in kind of more short, bursty type engagements. Rengar has a lot of burst that's front-end loaded, whereas Jax has a lot of sustained damage. So that's kind of why I was kiting him, going in and out of the fight, whereas Rengar, he should have either committed to go all in or backed off, one or the other. Whereas Jax is much more capable of kind of drawing the fight out. Then I get more mileage out of my passive, get more mileage out of my short cooldown W. Whereas Rengar isn't going to be able to just scrap and duel with me in the long run as well. So again, knowing your champion, that's kind of a the theory there behind the cooldown related trades is knowing your champion is very important, and knowing what I'm good at, what my opponent is good at, was really critical there to helping me win that trade, knowing exactly what I was capable of, and when the time to go all in was, and when the time to go all in wasn't. Another thing that I want to mention here, just briefly, is that another thing to keep in mind when you're trading is, especially early on in the game, not so much at this point, but early on in the game, minions are extremely important to keep in mind. Minions can really decide the outcome of a trade. Especially before level 6, before champions get enough base stats and armor to kind of negate a lot of that minion damage. But early on in the game, minions do a lot of damage, and you really need to be mindful of them. And you really, really need to be, aware of exactly how much damage they're going to do to you. Because you don't want to tank that much damage for minions. It's just the fact of it. So basically, a rule that I think you should keep in mind is that anytime you can fight, if you're in your creep line, you probably should fight, and if you're in their creep line, you probably shouldn't fight. So if they engage on you, staying and fighting it is probably best, because number one, they probably blew some cooldowns to get into your creep line to get on top of you, and number two, your minions are going to help you fight, whereas their minions are not going to be in range of you. So, you know, especially early on in the game, you know, keeping the minion waves in mind and only fighting, you know, when the minions are on your side is really, really important. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is itemization and how that affects trading. There are a lot of different things that you can choose to do in terms of itemizing to really help your trades out in lane. Now, the biggest thing to keep in mind is power spikes. You know, for a champion like Jax, you know, when I've already completed my Bilgewater Cutlass and I'm moving towards my Trinity Force. You know, these 3 core, you know, part items that I have with the Bilgewater, the Phage, and the Sheen is going to make me really, really powerful. And so you can see why Rengar is playing so passively, even though there's a gank incoming. I've got a level advantage on him. I've got an item advantage on him. You know, I've got a lot going for me that is going to help me win this trade. And even though these guys are kind of diving on top of me, because I've got, you know, such an itemization lead, Rengar wasn't really able to start that off as effectively as he would have liked. He's definitely behind. He only has a Brutalizer, cooldown boots, Vamp Scepter, whereas I have a Cloth Armor and a Doran Shield, so I have much more defense than he has. And I've got a Sheen, a Phage, and a Bilgewater Cutlass, which are all giving me a lot of good stats that I really want. You know, he only has 10 plus 25, 35 bonus AD. I've got 25, 45, plus the Sheen proc. So I'm much tankier, and I have better damage output. So anytime I see Rengar, I'm going to be very eager to trade with him. And not going to be afraid to fight him at all. And so yeah, those are kind of the basic that I wanted to talk about. I mean, trading is a very complex subject. There's a lot going on. There's a lot more I could get into, but really just the basics of knowing cooldowns, you know, trading when they go for CS, understanding, you know, power spikes through itemization. You know, all these things kind of come together, and once you start to get a feel for it, you'll know when the opportune moment is. You know, as you learn your champion, you can become more comfortable with your favorite champion. Knowing when and where to trade with your opponents will become more clear. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any other questions about trading or any like specific thing like that, or any other topic like this that you would like some guidance on, that I could maybe shed some light on and give my thoughts and opinions. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more League of Legends videos like this, feel free to rate or subscribe. And I hope you guys have a good day. I'll see you later. Bye.